Aloha, Annie Elison. This morning I was prepping a lot on the North Shore of Kauai to put on the market for sale. And I also had a conversation with another client who's looking to buy a home, but he wanted to talk to me about building. Let's talk about costs, time, and other things that pertain to building on Kauai. If you're going to build on Kauai, it really matters where you're building. Are you building in an organized subdivision like Princeville or Kukui'ula or Poipu Beach Estates? Or are you building on ag land or county land, which is probably ag land as well? All of these things factor into what you can do and how long it's going to take. A pro to building in a lot of these larger master plan communities is they are going to already have utilities. They will have a sewer system. There's already electrical at the street. So you're not going to have to worry about some of these things, right? Yes, you'll need to put in a water meter if the lot doesn't already have one. For the most part in these larger master plan communities, the utilities are already taken care of. Now, if you're buying on ag land or on county land, this is something you're going to need to do your due diligence on. For example, a water meter right now costs a little bit over $14,000 from the county, plus the cost to install it. These are added costs. If you need to put in a septic tank, it's going to depend on if it's a regular septic tank or an aerobic septic tank, which you would put in near water or in a flood zone. And an aerobic septic tank is much more expensive than a regular septic tank. So obviously when you're building, cost factors into the decision to build and what you're going to build. In most parcels on Kauai, these are things you're going to need to think about. Another thing you'll want to know before purchasing is you're really going to want to know about the water. I'm not saying anything that isn't well known on Kauai. The water department is the hardest department to get a communication back from. So if you want to find out how difficult it's going to be to connect to the county water system on Kauai, you're going to need to talk to the water department if you're on ag or county land. It has happened before that people have bought land planning to build on it, and when they are going through their permitting process and they finally get a hold of the water department tells them, we can't allow for any more building where that lot is. For us to be able to add more density there, we're going to need to increase the pipe at the road. And we will do that at some point. No time is ever given. Or you can do it, the cost is in the hundreds and thousands of dollars. So before you buy a lot on Kauai, you're going to want to know where you're going to get your water from. Now, it is possible that you don't have to connect to the county water if you are on ag land or a lot where you can get a well. A well water is also an option. Once again, digging a well, somewhere between $50,000 to $80,000. But these are things you're going to want to know before you purchase, if at all possible. Here are some other costs that sometimes people forget to factor in. What does the driveway look like? Is it a steep driveway or some engineering is going to need to happen? If you need an engineered driveway, it's going to be expensive. Do you need to put in a driveway? And if so, how long is that going to be? Is it in a flood zone? We build in flood zones on Kauai. This may be surprising to some of you, but almost everything by the water is in a flood zone. Flood zones require, as I've mentioned earlier, the aerobic septic systems, right? They're basically their own sewage treatment utility. They say that the water that comes out of them is potable. Now, no one ever wants to test that and drink it. That is what they say. Flood zones have to build up on stilts. Now, if you've been to Kauai, you have probably seen some homes built up on stilts. Now, traditionally, Hawaiian plantation homes were built off of the ground, and a lot of people still prefer that. There's a lot of reasons to build off the ground. One is it's easier to get to your plumbing or your electrical. If you're going to put in split systems after the build, if you can go underneath the house, that's a big perk. When you're up off the ground, you have less bugs, a better breeze, and generally a better view. There are lots of reasons to like being off the ground, but if you're in a flood zone, you're going to be required to build off the ground, and it's going to be pretty high off the ground. So you want to look into that and make sure that you're okay with that height. Another natural disaster that people might think about sometimes are tsunamis. Coastal areas that are near the height of the sea level is in a tsunami zone. Kauai has very clear tsunami escape plans. The streets are marked. There's a house on Anini Beach that I've sold a few times, and when they built it, the owner was from an area where they get tsunamis, and he wanted to build it so that no tsunami could destroy it. And it's possible he did it. It's probably the best built building on the island of Kauai. But you never know what's going to happen when Mother Nature is involved. So what about the cost? These are general numbers, right? This might not be surprising to you, but there has been some inflation since COVID. Pre-COVID, we would usually say it's going to be about $300, $400 a square foot to build, and that was just your general entry level build. Not terrible, but basic, with basic Home Depot type finishes. I would now put those costs at somewhere between $500 and $600 a square foot. This is not for anything fancy. Remember, this is just for your regular kind of basic house, which we love on Kauai. If you're thinking that you want something amazing, for example, considering hiring the Randy Weir Company, who are considered the best builders on Kauai. If your architect was Gary Toby and you have plans to build a Gary Toby house, you're probably going to be spending around $3,000 a square foot. You might be able to do it for less, and you can certainly do it for more. What about time? You've probably heard the saying, time is money. Life is short. If you want to buy the beach house and live the dream, how long is it going to take to build? I have some clients that bought a 2-acre parcel on the east side of Kauai in May of 2021. They're almost done building. They're hoping to be in by Christmas. That's been about 2.5 years. It does not always take that long. Once again, if you're building in a master plan community like Princeville or Kukui'ula or Poipu Beach Estates, and these are just examples I'm giving, there are others, it can be faster. You're not putting in a lengthy driveway. There are things that are already set up for you to hit the ground running. Sometimes people say you can do it in 1.5 years. I usually tell people you probably want to plan on 2 years, maybe even more. If you are looking to build, obviously picking a builder is super important. What builder are you going to work with? The good builders on Kauai right now are all generally booked out for the next year. If you're buying now, that would give you time to get your plans ready, to kind of tighten those things in, so when their calendars are open, they can hit the ground running. You're looking about 1 year out from most builders on Kauai. If you've ever built before, you probably know the hardest part is the last 10%. It's like the little things at the end, they just seem to take forever to get done. What's important to remember, if you're building and you want to be able to vacation rent or short-term rent the property, you need to build only in visitor destination areas. If you build anywhere outside of the visitor destination areas, you will not be allowed to short-term rent your property. It probably means, with a couple of exceptions, where you can rent for a month at a time, but generally it means that if you're renting your home, it will be for a minimum of 6 months at a time. And if you're looking to build and rent to local families, we would love for you to do that. We desperately need long-term rentals on Kauai. Some people love to build, and some people find building challenging because there are so many questions you have to answer when you're building. The real perk to building is that when you're done, you have exactly what you want, or hopefully you did. Sometimes you change your mind in the middle and it's too late, but you can get really close to what you want. If you're looking at buying a home or a condo that's already built, then you're taking kind of someone else's vision, and maybe you're tweaking it and remodeling it to be something you like. And that could work too, right? But the plus to building is really getting what you want and getting something really beautiful. Life is short. Build the beach house. Live the dream. Life is short. It might not feel that way when you're building the beach house, but then you can live the dream.